So today we're going to be talking about air masses and how they affect an area's climate. Levi, if you could cut your camera off, please. Thank you, and keep it off. So what we want to do today is we want to talk about air masses. So let Ms. Neville go ahead and share her screen. You received some notes yesterday on Schoology that you were supposed to have already completed to make your life today a little bit more simple. In your notes, please write down the title, Air Masses That Affect the Climate of the United States. Ms. Neville will go on in 1 minute. Okay, so when we think about air masses, we're gonna learn about four main air masses today. A maritime air masses, two types of maritime air masses, and two types of continental air masses. If you look here at your picture, what you'll find is where this tells us the location of each of these air masses. So when we're talking about the maritime air mass, maritime literally means mare means ocean. So the maritime air masses will come from the ocean. And the continental air mass, please write this down, it may be helpful to you. The continental air mass will be air that comes from land. Okay. Remember, this lesson is being recorded. So if you don't get some notes or you don't finish a picture completely, the pictures have been put on Schoology as independent files, but also this lesson is being recorded just in case you need Ms. Neville to explain something again to you. Okay. So we want to talk about, in our notes, let's write down classifying in air mass. Classifying in air mass. We want to make sure we understand what an air mass is before we can sort it or put it into a group. After all, that's what the word classify means. That word classify means to sort or put into groups, okay? So if I didn't know what that word meant in my notes, I'm writing sorting above classifying, just like your mom or dad classifies clothes between whites and color right before they wash them. That's classifying. So when we're classifying an air mass, it's important for us to first know what in the world it is. An air mass is a large body of air. An air mass is a large body of air. So just like our ocean is a bunch of salt water in one place, an air mass is a body of air, a bunch of air that's the same temperature and has the same amount of moisture in one place. We want to make sure we know that that's actually how meteorologists classify air masses. Okay? They classify air masses based on the amount of moisture they have there, their temperature, and number three, I want us to write number three as well, their location. Okay? Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to admit someone in class. I'm going to share my screen with you again. Okay, there we go. Hopefully everyone can see that screen now. So in our notes, we're going to talk about 4 types of air masses. In other words, 4 air masses, different types of air masses that have different temperature levels and have different moisture levels. In our notes, we want to make sure we understand that there are 4 types of air masses. There are 4 types of air masses, and we're going to learn about each of those today. Okay, so our first type of air mass that we're going to discuss is called a maritime tropical air mass. Any air that's blowing in from the tropical region, guys, turn on your mics. Do you think it'll be hot or cold air? If it's coming from the tropical region, will it be hot or cold air?
Hot. Hot.
Very good. So a maritime tropical air mass is going to be warm and moist or wet. That means it's going to bring a lot of rain, precipitation with it. So a maritime tropical, lowercase m, uppercase T, a maritime tropical air mass is going to be warm because it's coming from that tropical region, and warm and moist, meaning that it brings a lot of precipitation with it. Our second type of air mass is going to be a maritime polar air mass. Now, because the polar region is, turn on your mics and let me know.
Cold.
Cold. It's going to bring cold air. So from cold oceans in the polar region, the maritime polar air mass is going to be cold, moist, and wet. It's going to bring plenty of precipitation, but it's going to be some cold air. And that's our second type of air mass, lowercase m, uppercase p. Our third type of air mass will be a continental tropical air mass. Now, continent, that word continent literally means land. We wrote that down on our last page of notes. So a continental air mass won't have any water with it. It's literally air just blowing over land, okay? Dirt. So it's going to be dry air. Because a continental air mass is dry, it's not going to have any water with it. It's usually going to be coming to an area that doesn't get a lot of rain or precipitation. And so a continental tropical air mass, which is our third type, lowercase c, uppercase T. Our continental tropical air mass is our third type of air mass, and it's going to be warm because it's coming from our tropical region, and dry because it comes from our from land. It's blowing from one piece of land to another. And our fourth, last but certainly not least, our fourth type of air mass here is going to be the continental polar air mass, abbreviated CP. And the continental polar air mass is going to be cold because it's coming from our polar region, and dry because it's coming from land. Now, this very chart that you guys just wrote down has already been on Schoology and it's still there. So Ms. Neville's going to keep going because you should have already drawn this chart. If you didn't, this lesson is being recorded and you'll be able to get it from the recorded lesson, or you can look in Schoology in our blue folder, and it's the last, most recent assignment Ms. Neville has published, where it's just notes, where you needed to have drawn this picture and completed, had this chart, okay? So let's keep going. So let's keep talking here. You don't have to write anything down here, just listen to me. So we want to look here at the United States and how, I want to write in, I don't think you guys think we'll be, I'll write in green. And how an air mass affects our climate. In your notes, write down the question, what is climate? Question mark. What is climate? When we discuss climate, climate is when we look at weather conditions in an area for a long time. So the rain, right now I'm in Warrenville. So the rain that happens in Warrenville for 2 years, the temperature changes in Warrenville over 2 years. Okay, that's climate. Weather is when we measure weather conditions every day. It rained on Monday, it didn't rain on Wednesday. There was a thunderstorm on Tuesday, there was no thunderstorm on Friday. Climate is when we measure, there we go. That's a weird one. When we measure and track weather conditions over a long time. Okay, so let's look at how an air mass can affect the weather in an area for a long time, how that air mass affects its climate. So let's look here. I want to change my color. Remember, you're not drawing this map. Okay, I just want to show you that these air masses are real. When we look here in the southern part of the United States, because our tropical zone is going to be below the United States, here we go. Because our tropical region is going to be below the United States, we want to make sure we know that Mexico is here below Texas, okay? And the Pacific Ocean is over here on the coast of Oregon, Washington, and California. So when we're looking here in these areas, we're going to see that the beaches of California are influenced by a maritime tropical air mass. Yeah, that hot, moist weather will affect this area. Generally, the coast, the beaches of California are hot and they get a lot of rain. However, if we look up here to the north, let me change my color. If we look up to the north where Washington State is, and we think about the air mass there, we want to remember Canada is above us, and Canada is in that polar region. This is a maritime air mass as well because it's coming from the ocean, but it's not maritime tropical. It's going to be maritime polar. So that means the type of weather that would influence the coast of Washington, Some of the coast of Oregon and the northern part of Oregon is going to be cold because it's coming from that polar region, and moist. That means there's a lot of wet rain, even snow that happens in that area. Okay? Now, let's look down here. I'm going to change. Oh, and I want to make sure we know too, where it says ME, this is Maine. Maine, that beach line of Maine, it's also influenced by the maritime polar air mass. So it too will get a lot of cold, wet air. Usually a lot of rain and the temperatures are lower. Now, let's look at where the continental polar air mass would be. Can someone turn on their mic and let me know, what does continent mean again?
Land.
Land. So a continental air mass is going to be cold, dry air. Okay, a continental polar air mass is going to come from Canada down into the upper parts of Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, okay, even a little bit of Idaho here. They're going to experience a continental polar air mass. So when we look at, and I'll change my color back to red, when we look at where the air mass comes from here, Mexico, that's land. So we're going to get tropical hot air here, but it's going to be continental. It's wind blowing in from Mexico to Texas, okay? So we're going to see that this air blows up, okay? This air is going to blow up. It's going to affect Texas. It's going to affect New Mexico, Louisiana. All of those areas will get a lot of hot, dry air, okay? So let's look a little bit deeper here, because Ms. Neville's not making this up. This actually is happening right now. We're able to see how climate in some of these areas are affected right now. In fact, we're going to look specifically today at the weather right now this week or next week in Santa Barbara, California. Remember, they should be getting some warm, wet weather, right? And we're going to look at the weather, the everyday conditions at a beach in Washington State, okay? So let's take a look here. So when we look here, and you don't have to draw this, when we look here, we see Santa Barbara. First of all, we see Neah Bay, okay, in Washington State. Remember, Washington State's going to get that maritime polar air mass. So it's going to be cold and, someone turn on their mic and let us know.
Moist.
Very good. Okay, lots of precipitation will happen here with a lot of cold air coming from that polar region. But if we look here at Santa Barbara, California, it is right here. I circle it super tiny. Okay, if we look here at Santa Barbara, let's look at the temperature for next week, according to weather.com, on Santa Barbara. Remember, Santa Barbara is being influenced by maritime tropical air mass, okay? Monday, 69, Tuesday, 70, 74, 76, 76. Y'all, this is almost like some of our spring weather, early summer weather for us. So it's pretty warm there, okay? So the temperature here is going to be much warmer because it's being influenced by a tropical air mass. A maritime polar air mass, remember, is going to be colder and it's going to be wet. So let's look at the difference here in temperatures. In Neah Bay, Washington, we're going to see Monday, 49, 50, 49, 49, 50. Which place is much warmer, guys?
Santa Barbara.
Yeah, because Santa Barbara is being influenced by that tropical region. Okay? So this is real. This is happening really in real time in these places. So today, for your assignment, what you're going to be working on, stop sharing my screen. Today, what you're going to be working on is one new assignment in your science blue folder. Okay?